The last time my mother saw me before my sister's wedding, I was 18 years old, still wearing my high school graduation dress, standing beneath the flickering lights of a Greyhound station with $43 in my pocket. My father would not look at me. My older sister kept checking her reflection in the car window. My mother dropped a black trash bag beside my shoes and said, "You have spent your whole life expecting this family to carry you. Tonight, you learn what the real world does with girls who have nothing to offer." Then she climbed into the passenger seat. The car pulled away before I could ask where I was supposed to sleep. For 16 years, none of them called to find out whether I was alive. Then my sister mailed me an invitation to her wedding and included a handwritten note asking whether I could help the family with the venue bill. They had no idea the wedding was being held at an estate owned by my company. They also had no idea that the woman they abandoned with $43 would arrive in the same black SUV, normally reserved for governors, athletes, and celebrities. But the moment that changed everything did not happen when the driver opened my door. It happened later, during the reception, when my mother raised a champagne glass and told 200 guests that abandoning me had been the greatest act of love she had ever performed. My name is Claire Donovan. I am 34 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believed surviving my family meant never speaking about them again. I was wrong. Silence did not erase what happened. It only gave my mother 16 years to replace the truth with a story that made her look brave. I grew up in a two-story colonial outside Richmond, Virginia, in a neighborhood full of trimmed hedges, decorative shutters, and families who looked far happier from the sidewalk than they were inside their kitchens. My father, Stephen, was a regional manager for a commercial insurance company. My mother, Elaine, taught piano from our living room and served on every school committee that placed her near people she considered important. My older sister, Vanessa, was the family success story before she had accomplished anything. She was beautiful, confident, socially effortless, and talented at giving our parents the version of themselves they wanted to see. My younger brother, Kyle, was the baby and the only son, which meant every failure he had was treated like evidence that he needed more support. I was the middle child, although my mother often said I had oldest child expectations with youngest child discipline, which was her way of saying I was responsible for everyone and entitled to nothing. Vanessa received private dance lessons, a new laptop before college, and a used BMW when she turned 17. Kyle got baseball camps, tutoring, and a lifted pickup truck he wrecked twice before graduation. I worked evenings at a grocery store and bought my own clothes. Whenever I asked why the rules were different, my mother said, "Because your brother and sister know how to appreciate opportunities. You treat basic kindness like a debt the world owes you." I did not understand the accusation. I rarely asked for anything because asking usually ended with me apologizing. My greatest offense seemed to be that I noticed unfairness and occasionally said so. When Vanessa forgot to pick up our grandmother's medication, my mother asked me why I had not reminded her. When Kyle failed algebra, I lost weekend privileges because I had not helped him enough. When I earned a scholarship to a summer photography program, my parents refused to drive me because Vanessa had a dance competition the same weekend. "Family requires sacrifice," my father said. Somehow, the sacrifice was always mine. I survived by spending time outside the house. I volunteered at the city theater, worked school events, helped teachers decorate classrooms, and accepted every shift offered at the grocery store. I loved transforming ordinary rooms. Give me folding tables, cheap fabric, string lights, and 2 hours, and I could make a school cafeteria feel almost elegant. My guidance counselor encouraged me to study event management or hospitality. My mother laughed when I mentioned it. "You want to decorate parties for a living?" she said. "That sounds about right. You have always preferred appearances to real work." Vanessa was planning to study communications at a private university, a major my mother described as versatile and sophisticated. The difference, apparently, was not the subject. It was which daughter wanted it. During my senior year, I applied to 3 colleges without telling my parents. I was accepted at a public university in North Carolina and offered partial financial aid but I still needed help covering housing and the first semester deposit. My father said money was tight. 2 weeks later, he paid the deposit on Vanessa's off-campus apartment because she did not want to live with roommates. My mother suggested that I attend community college and continue living at home, but every time she discussed the arrangement, she added new conditions. I would pay rent. I would cook 3 nights a week. I would continue helping Kyle with homework. I would drive my mother to piano competitions when my father was traveling. I would not be allowed to work late because it disrupted the household. It was not a plan for my education. It was a plan for keeping the family's unpaid assistant. I said I needed time to think. My mother called that answer ungrateful. Graduation arrived on a humid Friday evening in June. I remember the smell of cut grass, the metal folding chairs sinking into the football field, and my blue graduation gown sticking to the back of my legs. When my name was called, I searched the bleachers for my family. My father was looking at his phone. Kyle had left to find friends. Vanessa clapped once while speaking to someone beside her. My mother smiled only when the photographer turned toward her. After the ceremony, I expected dinner. My mother had mentioned a restaurant and told me to change into the cream dress hanging in my closet. Instead, she ordered me into the car while still wearing the dress beneath my open graduation gown. My suitcase was not in the trunk. There were no balloons, no cake, and no questions about how I felt. My father drove toward downtown. Vanessa sat beside me in the back seat, typing messages. "Where are we going?" I asked. "You will see," my mother said. The bus station appeared 15 minutes later. At first, I thought we were picking someone up. Then my father parked near the side entrance. My mother stepped out, opened the trunk, and removed a black trash bag and my old school backpack. "What is this?" I asked. "A beginning," she said. Inside the bag were 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, underwear, a toothbrush, and the worn sneakers I used for work. No documents, no medication, no jacket, no photograph. No indication that anyone believed I might return. My mother handed me an envelope containing $50. "You said you wanted a life outside this family," she said. "Now you can prove you deserve one." I said I wanted to go to college. College is for people who have direction. You want freedom without responsibility. Where am I supposed to go? You are 18. That is not an answer. Her face hardened. This is exactly why we are doing this. You always expect someone else to provide the answer. I looked at my father. Both hands remained on the steering wheel. "Dad?" He swallowed but did not turn around. "Your mother thinks this will help you grow up. Do you?" He stared straight ahead. Vanessa finally looked up from her phone. For 1 second, I believed she might defend me. Instead, she sighed. "Claire, please do not make a scene. Mom has been upset all week. My family was abandoning me, and Vanessa's concern was that my reaction might upset our mother. Can I at least come home tonight and leave tomorrow?" I asked. "No," my mother said. "You will manipulate your father into changing his mind." "I do not have anywhere to sleep." "Then you should start solving problems instead of creating them." She closed the trunk. My backpack hit the pavement near my feet. The car doors shut. My father pulled away. I ran after them for several yards, not because I planned to beg, but because my brain refused to accept that they were actually leaving. Vanessa turned around once. Our eyes met through the rear window. She did not signal for them to stop. She simply looked away. I stood beside a metal bench until the taillights disappeared. My graduation tassel was still hanging from my backpack. I had not even received my diploma folder because the school mailed official copies later. I had $43 after buying water and using the payphone to call 2 classmates. One was out of town. The other said her parents were uncomfortable getting involved in family conflict. The phrase, family conflict, made what happened sound like an argument over curfew. I considered calling the police, but what would I report? My parents had told their adult daughter to leave. Cruelty was not always illegal. Sometimes it simply waited for privacy. I bought the cheapest ticket leaving that night. It went to Knoxville, Tennessee. I chose Knoxville because the bus arrived in the morning and because the word sounded friendly. That was the entire plan. I sat in the back row with my trash bag beneath my feet and my backpack against my chest. I did not cry until we crossed the state line. Then I cried so quietly that the woman across the aisle pretended to be asleep. The bus station in Knoxville opened onto a city I knew only from road signs. I spent 2 hours walking because I could not afford transportation. A waitress at a 24-hour diner noticed my graduation gown folded over my arm and asked whether I was running away. "I think I was sent away," I said. She studied me for a moment, then brought me eggs I had not ordered. Her name was Denise. She wrote the address of a youth shelter on a paper placemat and circled the bus route. When I told her I had no exact change, she emptied the coins from her apron pocket into my hand. That was the first help I received after my family left. It came from a stranger who owed me nothing. The shelter was a converted church building with 12 beds, strict rules, and a waiting list. A caseworker named Mrs. Hanley allowed me to sleep on a couch in the office for 2 nights until a bed became available. She helped me request a copy of my birth certificate and retrieve my social security information. My parents had kept every document. They had not expected me to need proof that I existed. I found work washing dishes at a conference hotel near the interstate. My shift began at 4 in the afternoon and ended after midnight. I earned minimum wage and ate staff meals whenever the kitchen manager looked the other way. The hotel hosted weddings, retirement dinners, medical conferences, and high school reunions. I began volunteering for event setup because it meant extra hours. I unfolded chairs, steamed tablecloths, polished water glasses, carried floral arrangements, and watched event managers solve problems before guests noticed them. I learned that a wedding could be saved by moving a ceremony indoors 10 minutes before a storm. I learned that rich people became surprisingly emotional when the wrong shade of napkin appeared on a table. I learned that the staff members, treated as invisible, were often the only people preventing disaster. During breaks, I studied discarded banquet plans. I copied seating charts into a notebook and rewrote them more efficiently. I wrote down questions I did not understand: service charge, room block, attrition, load-in time, vendor insurance, corkage fee. The hotel's banquet captain, a woman named Rosa Delgado, caught me reading an event order near the loading dock. I expected her to accuse me of snooping. Instead, she asked what I thought was wrong with it. I pointed out that the florist was scheduled to arrive after the tables were supposed to be dressed. Rosa stared at the page, then laughed. "You are right." The next Saturday, she asked me to shadow her during a wedding. I carried a radio and spent 14 hours moving between the ballroom, kitchen, bridal suite, and ceremony lawn. The cake arrived leaning. A groomsman lost his pants. The bride's mother accused the photographer of ignoring her. Rosa solved every problem without making anyone feel that a crisis had occurred. At midnight, while we collected abandoned champagne glasses, she said, "Most people think events are decorations. They are not. They are people under pressure. If you can read the pressure, the decorations are easy." Rosa became my first real mentor. She helped me move from dishwashing to banquet setup, then to event coordination. She never treated hardship like proof that I was special. She treated effort like something that created options. When I made mistakes, she corrected me without humiliation. When I apologized too much, she said, "An apology should fix harm, not announce that you believe you are worthless." I rented a room from another hotel employee, named Naomi Brooks, a nursing student with a loud laugh and a habit of labeling every item in the refrigerator. Our apartment was above a laundromat and shook during the spin cycle. My bedroom had no closet, but the door locked. I placed the $5 bill remaining from my mother's envelope inside an old picture frame. I kept it not because I was proud of the money, but because I feared that one day my family would tell the story differently and I would doubt myself. They did not call. My father did not email. Vanessa posted photographs from college beneath captions about being supported by the best family in the world. Kyle received a new truck after graduating. My mother uploaded a photograph of the four of them at Thanksgiving and wrote, Nothing matters more than having all my children home. I stared at the word all until Naomi closed my laptop. Do not let people who erased you decide whether you exist, she said. I blocked their accounts for 6 months. Then loneliness made me unblock them. That pattern continued for years. I did not want them back. I wanted evidence that someone felt guilty. There was none. My career advanced slowly, then suddenly. A bride's coordinator disappeared 2 hours before a ceremony, and Rosa asked me to take over. The florist had delivered centerpieces to the wrong building, the groom's mother wanted to change the seating chart, and the ceremony musicians were stuck in traffic. I called a local florist, reorganized the tables, moved cocktail hour outside, and convinced a jazz trio from another hotel event to play 30 minutes of acoustic music. The bride never knew how close the day came to collapsing. Her father owned several restaurants and later hired me to plan a company anniversary dinner. That event led to 3 more. I began coordinating private events on weekends while working at the hotel during the week. Naomi designed a simple website. Rosa warned me not to accept every client. People who do not respect your time before paying will not respect it after, she said. I named the company Blue Alder Events because alder trees grow along damaged riverbanks and strengthen the soil around them. At first, Blue Alder was a laptop, a borrowed car, and a folding table in Naomi's living room. I handled weddings in church halls, anniversary dinners in backyards, and corporate retreats at mountain lodges. I slept 4 hours a night and carried emergency kits containing safety pins, tape, stain remover, medicine, sewing supplies, and protein bars. I learned to ask for deposits, put everything in writing, and leave meetings when clients became insulting. The first time I declined a wealthy client who mocked a server, my hands shook for an hour. I had grown up believing security came from pleasing people with power. Building a business required understanding that some money was too expensive to accept. Rosa introduced me to Margaret Keene, a widow in her early 60s, who owned a neglected historic inn outside Asheville. The inn had 18 guest rooms, a collapsing garden pavilion, and a dining room with water stains across the ceiling. Margaret wanted to host small weddings, but lacked the money and energy to manage them. She offered me discounted office space in exchange for helping rebuild the event business. I moved into a tiny room above the laundry area and spent 2 years restoring the property one event at a time. Naomi left nursing school and joined Blue Alder as operations manager after realizing she preferred logistics to hospitals. Rosa consulted on weekends. We painted walls, photographed rooms, negotiated with local vendors, and created packages for couples who wanted intimate weddings without luxury prices. I insisted that every worker receive meals and clear schedules. I remembered too well how easily invisible staff were treated as disposable. During our first year, a winter storm trapped an entire wedding party at the inn. Roads closed, the power failed, and the caterer could not arrive. We cooked pasta on gas burners, found candles in storage, moved mattresses into the dining room, and turned the reception into something people later described as magical. Photographs of the candlelit celebrations spread online, bookings doubled. Margaret offered me a percentage of the event revenue. 3 years later, when she decided to sell the inn, she offered Blue Alder the first opportunity to buy it. I had savings but nowhere near enough. A local investment group wanted to purchase the property and replace the inn with condominiums. Margaret gave me 90 days. I prepared a plan, asked 3 longtime clients to invest, and risked every dollar I had saved. The deal closed 2 days before the deadline. I signed the papers at age 26, and then locked myself inside the inn's pantry because I was shaking too hard to stand in front of employees. Owning property did not instantly make me feel safe. It made me terrified of losing something real. Margaret found me sitting on a flower container. "You look miserable for a woman who just bought an inn," she said. "I think I made the biggest mistake of my life." "Probably not. How do you know?" "People who are careless do not usually panic this responsibly." We laughed. Then she sat beside me until my breathing slowed. Blue Alder grew because we focused on places other companies ignored: old inns, family farms, historic houses with beautiful bones and poor management. We did not erase character to make them look expensive. We repaired roofs, improved kitchens, trained staff, restored gardens, and created events that felt personal instead of manufactured. By 31, I owned majority shares in 3 boutique hotels and 2 event estates. We employed nearly 150 people. Naomi became chief operating officer. Rosa left the conference hotel and joined us as director of training. Margaret remained an advisor and refused every title we offered. "I am the woman who tells you when you are becoming ridiculous," she said. We created a paid apprenticeship for young adults experiencing housing instability. Participants received temporary rooms, meals, transportation support, and real wages. I did not tell them my history unless they asked. I did not want to turn their hardship into a stage for my survival story. I simply wanted the rules to be clear and the doors to remain open long enough for them to choose another future. Our largest project was Bellweather House, a neglected estate outside Charlottesville, Virginia. The property had a brick manor, guest cottages, an old glass conservatory, and a ballroom built in the 1930s. It was less than 90 minutes from the bus station where my family left me. I almost rejected it because returning to Virginia made my body react before my mind could explain why. Naomi said, "Avoiding the whole state still gives your mother a lot of real estate inside your life." She was right. Blue Alder purchased Bellweather House through a holding company and spent 2 years restoring it. We repaired the slate roof, rebuilt the gardens, reopened the conservatory, and turned the old carriage house into staff housing. I visited the property every month but avoided Richmond. I told myself that was a boundary. Secretly, it was fear. Bellweather became one of the most requested wedding venues in the region. Couples booked 18 months in advance. Photographs appeared in magazines. Most guests knew only the Bellweather name. My connection to the company was public, but not obvious unless someone searched. 16 years after the bus station. A national hospitality publication featured Blue Alder. The article included a photograph of me standing inside the Bellweather Conservatory and described how I had entered the industry after experiencing homelessness at 18. It did not mention my family. It did not need to. My mother sent me a message 4 days later. "Claire, I just read the wonderful article. Your father and I always knew your determination would take you somewhere extraordinary. We would love to reconnect when you are ready." I read it 3 times. There was no apology, no question about where I slept, no acknowledgement that they had not known whether I was alive for 16 years. She had transformed abandonment into a motivational strategy without writing the words. I did not answer. My father emailed next. "Time has a way of making family disagreements seem larger than they were. I hope we can all move forward." Leaving a teenager at a bus station was now a disagreement. Vanessa contacted me a week later. Her message began with photographs of her engagement ring. She was marrying a real estate attorney named Preston Shaw. The ceremony would take place in October. "I know things have been complicated," she wrote, "but I really want all my siblings at the wedding. People still ask about you, and it would mean a lot to Mom if we could finally present a united front. Not if we could heal. Not if we could speak honestly. A united front." She attached the invitation. The wedding was at Bellweather House. I opened our booking system. Vanessa had reserved the estate 10 months earlier through a planner. My mother had negotiated aggressively over guest rooms, floral restrictions, and the rehearsal dinner. She had no idea the company she was fighting over linen fees with belonged to the daughter she abandoned. Naomi read the message over my shoulder. "This is either the universe offering closure or developing a dark sense of humor. I am not going. That may be the correct choice. You sound unconvinced. I am wondering whether not going protects your peace or protects their version of the story." I hated the question because it was good. My mother continued messaging. At first, she sent childhood photographs. Then she sent a picture of my old bedroom, which had become a music room years earlier. "We never stopped thinking about you," she wrote. I wondered whether she believed that replacing my bed with a piano counted as keeping me close. Vanessa asked whether I would be a bridesmaid. When I did not respond, she sent another message explaining that the dresses had already been ordered, and it might be easier if I simply attended as a guest. Then the real request arrived. Since you work in hospitality, could you possibly talk to Bellweather about reducing the remaining balance? Mom says they are being inflexible. It would be such a meaningful wedding gift. My family had not spoken to me for 16 years, and within 3 weeks they were asking me to negotiate a discount from my own company. I replied with one sentence. Bellweather House will honor the signed event package and cannot offer additional reductions. My mother answered almost immediately. You do not need to sound like a stranger. We are trying to include you. I did not reply. The next month, Blue Alder held a leadership retreat at Bellweather. I stayed in the manor and walked through the empty ballroom after midnight. Chandeliers reflected across the polished floor. In 6 weeks, my sister would stand there surrounded by flowers and people who believed my family had always supported its children. I imagined not attending. It felt safe. I also imagined my mother raising a glass and saying I had chosen to stay away. That felt familiar. I accepted the invitation the next morning. I informed Bellweather's general manager, Liam Reed, that I would attend as a guest. No special treatment for the wedding, I said. No retaliation, no surprise upgrades, and no one tells the family I own the company, unless they ask directly. Liam nodded. And when they do ask, tell the truth. 2 weeks before the wedding, my father called. I recognized his voice even after 16 years. Children know their parents' voices in a part of the brain that does not accept distance. Claire, he said. Hi, Dad. Silence filled the line. Your mother says you are coming. Vanessa invited me. We are glad. Are you? Of course. You had 16 years to say that. He exhaled slowly. I deserve that. You deserve more than one sentence. I handled things badly. You drove the car. Your mother made the decision. You drove the car. Another silence. She believed you needed a push, he said. She thought you lacked discipline. Did you? I thought you would stay with a friend. Which friend? I do not remember. Because you did not ask. No. Did you check whether I arrived somewhere safely? No. Did you call the next morning? No. Did you ever plan to? His voice broke slightly. I told myself you would call when you calmed down. You left me at a bus station. I know. Why did you not come back? For the first time, he gave me an answer that sounded honest. Because admitting your mother was wrong would have required me to oppose her, and I had spent our entire marriage avoiding that. I sat behind my desk and closed my eyes. So you sacrificed your daughter because confronting your wife was uncomfortable. Yes. The word came out like something tearing. I asked about money. He admitted they could have helped me attend college. They had instead used the savings to pay Vanessa's housing and settle one of Kyle's debts after he damaged a vehicle. My mother believed I was the least likely child to produce a return on investment. She said you would either become responsible or prove that we had been carrying you, he whispered. And what did you say? Nothing. That seems to be what you were best at. He did not defend himself. Before ending the call, he asked whether I could forgive him. You are asking for the final step before taking the first one, I said. Start with the truth. Then accept that I decide what happens next. The morning of the wedding, I dressed alone in a guest cottage at one of our properties near Washington. I chose a dark emerald gown that fit beautifully, but did not demand attention. Naomi arranged transportation through Blue Alder's executive service because she refused to let me drive 3 hours after an emotional evening. You are not arriving to prove anything, she said. You are arriving safely in a vehicle your company already owns. It is an armored Escalade. Yes, very safe. I carried my original graduation tassel inside my handbag, along with the $5 bill and a copy of the bus ticket I had later requested from the company's archived records. I did not plan to display them. I needed physical evidence for myself. Manipulative families rarely begin by denying the harm. They begin by softening the details until the injured person wonders whether she was dramatic. The SUV entered Bellweather's gates shortly before 3. Guests gathered near the fountain taking photographs. My mother stood on the manor steps wearing a silver gown and giving instructions to a florist who did not work for her. My father stood nearby holding garment bags. Kyle was smoking behind a hedge, despite the property rules. Vanessa appeared at an upstairs window in a white robe. The driver opened my door. Several staff members recognized me and straightened instinctively. Liam began walking toward the vehicle before remembering my instruction to treat me as a guest. My mother saw him anyway, then she saw me. Her face lost color. She recovered quickly and came down the steps with her arms open. "My girl," she announced loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. I stepped back before she could touch me. "Hello, Mom." Her smile remained, but her eyes sharpened. "You look incredible." "Thank you. You could have told us you were arriving like this. You did not ask how I was arriving." She laughed, performing ease, still so independent. My father approached more slowly. He looked older than I expected. His hair was almost white. Regret does not make a person innocent, but it can make him look tired. "Claire," he said. "Dad." We did not hug. Kyle appeared and gave me a surprised whistle. The runaway returns. My mother's expression changed for half a second. "Kyle," she warned. "What?" he said. "That is what everyone called her." I looked at him. "Who told everyone I ran away?" He looked toward our mother. "I assumed." "You assumed because someone explained my absence." My mother touched my elbow. "Today is not the day." I asked one question, and I am asking you not to begin something before your sister's ceremony. There it was. I had been on the property less than 2 minutes, and already I was responsible for preventing conflict created by their lie. Liam approached. "Welcome back, Miss Donovan. Your cottage is prepared if you need anything before the ceremony." My mother's eyebrows lifted. "You know the manager? We have worked together." Liam looked at me, waiting to see whether I wanted him to say more. I shook my head slightly. My mother noticed. "Work together? How?" "Later," I said. "Today is Vanessa's wedding." That answer should have pleased her. Instead, suspicion entered her face. Inside the manor, relatives stared openly. An aunt named Rebecca hugged me and whispered, "Your mother said you wanted nothing to do with the family." A former neighbor told me everyone believed I had moved west with an older boyfriend. Another relative said my parents had searched for me, but eventually respected my request for no contact. By the time the ceremony began, I had heard 3 separate versions of my disappearance. In each one, I was unstable, selfish, or unreachable. No version included a bus station. I sat in the 3rd row beside Naomi, whom I had invited as my guest because she had been more of a sister to me than Vanessa had ever tried to be. My parents sat in the front. Kyle stood with the groomsmen. I had not been included in the wedding party, family photographs, or program. The program listed Vanessa, Kyle, and the loving parents who gave their children every opportunity. I read the sentence twice. Naomi covered my hand with hers. "Breathe," she whispered. The ceremony was beautiful. Vanessa looked genuinely happy when she saw Preston. For a moment, I remembered her at 12 years old teaching me how to braid hair, and the grief became more complicated. People are rarely only the worst thing they have done. That does not mean we must keep giving them access. During cocktail hour, Vanessa found me near the conservatory. "You came," she said. "I said I would. I did not know whether you would actually show." "Why?" "You have always been unpredictable." I was left at a bus station. Her smile vanished. "Can we not do this today? You brought up my reliability. I invited you because I wanted a fresh start. You invited me because people ask where I am." Her eyes flickered away. "That was part of it. And because you wanted a discount." Mom asked me to mention that. "You did not have to. You do not understand how she gets before events." "I understand better than you think." Vanessa lowered her voice. "I was 18 too, Claire. You were 20. Fine, I was young. I did not control what Mom did. You sat in the car. What was I supposed to do? Say stop?" She would not have listened. Neither did Dad. Neither did you. Everybody decided silence removed responsibility. Vanessa's eyes filled. I thought you had somewhere to go. Did you ever call to check? She looked down. No. Then you did not care enough to learn whether your assumption was true. Before she could answer, Preston approached and kissed her temple. He greeted me warmly. I am glad you made it. Vanessa has talked about you a lot. I wondered which version he had heard. She changed the subject immediately. The reception began in the restored ballroom. My family had selected tall white flowers, gold-rimmed plates, and hundreds of candles. My mother moved through the room accepting compliments as though she had personally restored the estate. The seating chart placed me at a rear table with former co-workers of my father and two cousins I barely remembered. Naomi sat beside me. My immediate family occupied the central table. An empty chair between Kyle and my father remained unused. That chair was probably supposed to be yours, Naomi said. No, I replied. It was designed to make my absence visible. Dinner had barely started when a local hotel owner named Grant Ellison approached our table. He had invested in one of Blue Alder's early projects. Claire, I did not know this was your sister's wedding, he said. My mother, seated nearby, turned immediately. Grant continued, the restoration is extraordinary. You should be proud of what your team did here. Thank you, I said. Liam and the preservation crew deserve most of the credit. My mother rose and walked toward us. I am sorry, she said. What restoration? Grant smiled. Bellweather House. Claire's company saved the estate. The silence around us widened. Vanessa stopped speaking. Kyle stared at me. My father closed his eyes briefly, as though he had expected this moment. My mother looked toward the chandeliers, the painted ceiling, and the windows opening onto the gardens. Your company? She asked. Blue Alder owns Bellweather House. You own this place? The company does. I am the majority owner. Vanessa set down her fork. Why did you not tell me? You never asked what my company owned. I told you about the venue. You asked me to secure a discount. Color rose into her face. My mother recovered faster. Well, she said brightly, turning toward nearby guests. That explains where Claire inherited her eye for beauty. She was always rearranging things as a child. I encouraged her creativity constantly. Naomi made a choking sound into her water. My mother continued. Of course, we believed in teaching all our children self-reliance. Claire took that lesson further than anyone. Within 15 minutes, she had transformed my success into proof of her parenting. She introduced me to relatives as our independent one. She told Preston's parents that I had always insisted on finding my own path. When someone asked why I had been absent for 16 years, she said I had needed space to build my career. Then she followed me into the corridor outside the ballroom. We need to talk, she said. About what? The outstanding venue balance. I stared at her. You are still asking? Now that we know this is your property, charging your sister full price is ridiculous. The wedding received the same pricing and service as every other client. Family should receive something extra. You had 16 years to demonstrate that belief. Do not be childish. I was a child when you left me at the station. She crossed her arms. You were 18. I had graduated less than an hour earlier. You survived. That does not make what you did safe. You built all of this because we forced you to stop depending on us. I built this because strangers helped me after you made sure I had no one. Her jaw tightened. You came here planning to punish me. No one can hear this conversation. The car, the dress, the staff calling you by name. You wanted everyone to see how successful you became. I arrived in a company vehicle and wore clothing I purchased. Existing is not an attack on you. You could have warned us. Would you have invited me if you knew I owned the venue? She hesitated. That was the answer. I am not canceling the balance, I said. I am not giving free rooms, refunding deposits, or turning company resources into an apology for what you did. The wedding will continue exactly as planned. After everything we did for you? I laughed once. I could not stop myself. Name one thing you did for me after graduation. She opened her mouth, then looked toward the ballroom where speeches were about to begin. We will discuss this later. No, you will speak, dance, take photographs, and enjoy Vanessa's wedding. We are not discussing my money again. I walked away before she could reply. I believed the matter was finished. Then my mother took the microphone. She thanked the guests, praised Preston, and described Vanessa as the daughter who had always brought light into the family. I expected favoritism. I did not expect her to use my life as the emotional climax of her speech. Many of you know that our family has walked through difficult seasons, she said, looking directly at me. Parenting requires choices. Children do not always understand at the time. Sometimes love means holding on. Sometimes love means letting go. Naomi's hand tightened around mine beneath the table. My mother continued. When Claire graduated, she was restless and uncertain. Stephen and I realized that protecting her from hardship would prevent her from discovering her strength. Giving her independence was the hardest decision we ever made. We cried for months, but we trusted that the values we had given her would guide her. Today, as I look around this magnificent estate she helped build, I know that our tough love worked. Several guests began applauding, not enthusiastically, uncertainly. My mother placed a hand over her heart and smiled through practiced tears. Claire, we are so proud of the woman our decision allowed you to become. For 16 years, I had imagined confronting her in dozens of ways. In some versions, I shouted. In others, I walked out without speaking. What I had never imagined was hearing strangers applaud the night I nearly became homeless. I looked at Vanessa. She was crying, but I could not tell whether she was moved by the speech or horrified by it. My father stared down at the table. Kyle drank from his glass. Preston looked confused. Naomi whispered, "You do not owe anyone silence." I stood. I did not rush toward the microphone. I walked slowly because my legs felt disconnected from my body. My mother's smile tightened as I approached. "May I say something?" I asked Vanessa. It was her wedding. I would not take the room without her consent. She looked at our mother, then at me. After several seconds, she nodded. I took the microphone. "First, I want to congratulate Vanessa and Preston. I hope your marriage is built on honesty, protection, and the courage to speak when silence would be easier." Vanessa lowered her eyes. I had not planned to discuss my past tonight, but my mother has described it publicly, and the version she shared is not true. The room became still. My mother rose halfway from her chair. "Claire, this is not appropriate. You made it part of your speech." I turned back toward the guests. On the night of my high school graduation, I was 18 years old. I was still wearing my graduation dress when my parents drove me to the Richmond bus station. My mother placed a trash bag containing clothing beside my feet. They gave me $50. They did not arrange housing, call a relative, contact a friend, or tell me where to go. When I asked where I was supposed to sleep, my mother said, "Solving that problem would teach me responsibility." My father drove away. My sister was in the car. None of them called that night. None called the next day. No one contacted me for 16 years. The applause had died completely. My mother stepped forward. "We believed she had friends." "Name one," I said. She looked at my father. He said nothing. "You told us you wanted freedom," my mother replied. "I told you I wanted to attend college. We could not afford everything." I looked at my father. "Could you afford to help me?" He closed his eyes. My mother hissed, "Stephen, do not." For the first time in my memory, he ignored her. "Yes," he said quietly. The microphone was still near me, but the room heard him. My mother stared at him. "We had savings," he continued. "Elaine wanted to use the money for Vanessa's apartment and to cover Kyle's debt. She believed Claire would not finish college." Vanessa covered her mouth. Kyle whispered something I could not hear. My mother's face transformed. "That is not what happened." "It is," my father said. I agreed. I drove the car. I did not call. I was wrong. An aunt near the front asked, "Then why did you tell everyone Claire ran away?" My mother turned toward her. "Because family matters are complicated," another relative said. You told us she stole money and disappeared. My mother looked at me. This is what you wanted. You came here to embarrass us. I came because Vanessa invited me. In an armored car. It belongs to the venue. You brought evidence, did you not? Her eyes had dropped to my handbag. She knew me well enough to recognize preparation as aggression. I opened the bag and removed the old $5 bill, the graduation tassel, and a small copy of the bus ticket. I held them but did not walk around displaying them. I kept these because I spent years afraid that one day someone would tell me I remembered it wrong. I had $43 after buying the ticket and water. I spent my first nights in a shelter. I washed dishes, slept above a laundromat, and ate leftover staff meals. Strangers helped me survive. You did not. My mother shook her head. And look where you are now. That hardship made you. No, it wounded me. Kind people helped me build something after the wound. Do not claim their work as proof of your love. Vanessa began crying. Mom, did you know she had nowhere to go? My mother turned toward her. This is your wedding. Do not allow Claire to ruin it. The sentence shocked even Vanessa. She is not ruining it, Preston said. It was the first time he had spoken. You brought this into the speech. My mother pointed toward me. She knew exactly what she was doing when she arrived here. I instructed the staff to give you the same service as every client, I said. I did not cancel your wedding, change your rooms, remove your decorations, or reveal my ownership. I protected this event more carefully than you protected me. She stepped closer. You think money makes you better than us. Money made it possible for me to sleep without wondering whether someone could throw me out. It did not make me better. What I did with the safety matters more. You are bitter. I am honest. You owe this family gratitude. For what? For making you independent. Abandonment is not education. We are still your parents. That is a biological fact, not a lifetime permission slip. Her face crumpled with rage rather than grief. After all the sacrifices I made for these children, this is how I am treated? Vanessa stood. Her wedding gown brushed the floor. Mom, stop. I am defending our family. No, Vanessa said. You are defending yourself. The room seemed to inhale. My mother stared at her favorite daughter, as though betrayal was something only other people could commit. You have no idea what I endured raising 3 children. Claire was one of them, Vanessa said. Not when it mattered, Kyle muttered. Everyone turned toward him. He shrugged, uncomfortable. What? We all knew Mom was harder on Claire. We just did not want it turned on us. It was a selfish confession, but it was honest. My mother told him to be quiet. He looked down, then said, That is what you always say when someone tells the truth. My father rose from his chair. Elaine, we need to leave. I am not leaving my daughter's wedding because Claire decided to perform. Vanessa wiped her face. Mom, I am asking you to leave the ballroom. You cannot be serious. You made my wedding speech about why abandoning my sister was good parenting. I was trying to heal the family. Healing would have started with an apology. My mother looked from Vanessa to Kyle to my father. For the first time, the room did not rearrange itself around her anger. She grabbed her purse and walked out. My father followed after pausing beside me. I am sorry, he said. Not here, I replied. Do not turn this into another speech. He nodded and left. The ballroom remained silent for several seconds. Then Preston's father stood and calmly asked the band to begin the next song. Staff cleared glasses. Guests returned to their seats. The wedding did not collapse because my mother left. That was another lesson she had spent years preventing us from learning. The family could continue without obeying her. Vanessa asked me to meet her on the terrace. Outside, strings of lights glowed above the gardens. She held the front of her wedding dress so it would not drag across the stone. I am sorry, she said. For tonight? For the car. For not stopping them. For never calling. Why did you not? At first I was afraid Mom would punish me too. Then every month that passed made it harder. She told everyone you had chosen to leave. I knew it was not completely true, but I let the story become easier than the memory. You benefited from me being gone. Vanessa nodded. tears sliding down her face. Yes, your college money paid for my apartment. Mom focused on you whenever she was angry, and after you left, she focused on keeping me happy. I did not want to examine that too closely. It was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. I am not ready to forgive you, I said. I know, an apology does not create a sister. I know that too. Do you? I want to. I want to prove it. Then start by not asking me to make this easy. She nodded. Will you stay for the cake? I looked through the windows at the ballroom. Guests were dancing again. Naomi stood near the bar, watching in case I needed her. Yes, I said. I will stay for the cake. I did not stay until the final dance. Before leaving, I walked through the empty conservatory. 16 years earlier, I had watched my family's car disappear and believed I had become the person with nothing. That night, I understood that ownership was not the most important reversal. My mother had once controlled whether I had a home. Now she did not even control whether I stayed for dessert. The driver opened the SUV door. I sat in the back seat and cried quietly as Bellwether's lights disappeared behind the trees. The tears were not victory. They were grief finally allowed to exist without shame. In the weeks after the wedding, my mother sent 23 messages from different numbers. Some were angry. Some were sentimental. Some accused me of turning Vanessa and Kyle against her. One said, "A loving daughter would have corrected me privately." I answered once. "A loving mother would not have turned abandonment into a wedding toast." Do not contact me again unless you are prepared to describe what you did without calling it love, necessity, or sacrifice. Then, I blocked every number. My father sent a handwritten letter. He listed specific choices without blaming my mother. He admitted that he valued peace with his wife more than safety for his daughter. He did not ask for money, forgiveness, or immediate contact. I did not respond for 3 months. Then I agreed to meet him in a public restaurant for 1 hour. He cried. I did not comfort him. That was not cruelty. His remorse belonged to him. Over the next year, we met 4 times. I still do not call him dad easily. A relationship may grow, or it may remain limited. He accepts that now. Kyle apologized in a text message containing more honesty than elegance. I knew you got treated worse, and I kept my mouth shut because it made my life easier. That was weak. We speak occasionally. He has never asked me for money. Vanessa entered therapy. She stopped posting photographs of our family as though one honest wedding conversation had repaired 16 years. Instead, she called once a month and asked whether I wanted to talk. Sometimes I said no. She accepted the answer. When her first child was born, she did not send a dramatic message about making me an aunt. She simply wrote, "There is a place for you if and when you want one. I understand that the choice is yours." I visited 3 months later. I held her daughter, while Vanessa made coffee. We did not pretend to be close, but we began. My mother refused counseling. She told relatives that wealth had made me arrogant. Fewer people believed her after the wedding. Lies become harder to maintain once the person who was erased begins speaking. I did not try to correct every rumor. Self-worth does not require winning a vote. Blue Alder continued growing, but the most important thing we built after the wedding was not another estate. We opened a program called Open Key in Knoxville, 2 miles from the bus station where I arrived at 18. It provides temporary housing, paid hospitality training, transportation, financial counseling, and mentorship to young adults abandoned by family or aging out of foster care. Every participant receives a private room, written expectations, real wages, and the right to ask questions without being called ungrateful. On the first day, we give each person a key, not a symbolic cardboard key for photographs. A real metal key to a real door that locks from the inside. Rosa runs the training program. Naomi oversees operations. Margaret donated the library. Denise, the waitress who bought me breakfast all those years ago, attended the opening. I found her through the diner's former manager. When she saw me, she said, "You look less frightened." I hugged her and replied, "I had help. A framed $5 bill hangs in my office at open key. Beneath it is a small plaque that reads, "This was never all she was worth." I do not display the bill to celebrate suffering. I display it because people often romanticize the hardship of successful women. They call abandonment independence, hunger motivation, and fear resilience. Survival can produce strength, but that does not make the harm necessary. I would have learned responsibility without being left beside a trash bag. I would have worked hard without wondering where I could sleep. I could have become ambitious while also being loved. My family's cruelty did not create my character. My choices and the kindness of others prevented their cruelty from destroying it. Years after the wedding, I returned to the Richmond bus station alone. The building had been renovated, but the metal benches remained. I sat where I believed my 18-year-old self had stood and watched buses arrive. For a long time, I imagined telling that girl everything she would build. The hotels, the weddings, the employees, the estate where her mother would finally lose control of the story. But success would not have been the first thing she needed to hear. So in my mind, I told her something simpler. You did not deserve this. You are not difficult to love. Their decision is not evidence about your value. Take the ticket. Accept help. Keep walking. One day, you will stop measuring your life by whether they regret losing you. That was the real freedom. Not the company. Not Bellweather House. Not the armored SUV. Or the moment my mother's face changed. The real freedom was realizing I no longer needed her to admit I had been worth keeping. Some people believe boundaries are punishment. They are not. Punishment tries to cause pain. Boundaries decide where pain is no longer allowed to enter. I did not cut my mother off to make her suffer. I cut her off because every conversation required me to deny my own memory so she could preserve hers. I did not expose the truth at Vanessa's wedding because I wanted revenge. I spoke because my silence had become part of the lie. Forgiveness may one day exist inside me. Access may never return. Those are separate choices. Family can apologize. Family can change. Family can also lose the privilege of standing close to the person they repeatedly harmed. The woman my mother abandoned at 18 spent years believing safety had to be earned through usefulness. The woman I am now knows that worth exists before achievement. Success did not make me deserving of respect. It made the people who had denied me respect interested in returning. There is a difference. So tell me honestly, if your family abandoned you when you had nothing, then came back only after you became successful, would you give them a genuine second chance, or would you protect the life you built by keeping that door permanently closed?